Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 383, recorded live on Saturday, May 23rd. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have FailedLegend rejoining the cast.
Hello.
Welcome back, sir. Always good to have you, especially for the build stuff. This week's screenshot, Elvira sneaks in the pit in the 223rd screenshot of the week. It's a nice little fun aerial shot there. Good camera work, too. It looks really nice. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Twitch, YouTube, DDO forums, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be, it will be a recorded show, and it will probably be available sometime Sunday, May 31st, depending on when I can get it out. Probably earlier than later. But you can stay updated by following us on social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we have more Warlock news. We have a producer's letter, community news, and a discussion on Crossbow Builds, which is where we're going to start. Crossbows are kind of a big thing right now with mechanic changes. We're going to be kind of giving two builds. FailedLegends will be kind of rogue flavored. Mine will be a pure artificer. More to give kind of some tips, ideas on how to build an artificer or crossbow build on one or the other. They're kind of the two more popular classes. But they're not these aren't necessarily supposed to be the biggest and bestest crossbow builds. But we're going to give some tips on how to build some crossbow users. So why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about your build and kind of walk us through kind of the highlights. We're not going to go through all the enhancement points, nitpicking every little detail. We're just going to hit the big ones. So why don't you go ahead?
Oh, yeah. Especially because enhancements change so often. Well, mainly, to start off, it's a halfling, because I love me some halflings. It's allowed me to pick up the Dragon Mark of Healing, which is always nice. It's a Rogue 12, Ranger 6, Artificer 2. Technically, you could go Rogue 18, Arty 2, and it's a pretty solid build, but I like picking up the Sniper Shot from Deepwood Sniper. It allows you to get sneak attack every 6 seconds for 4 seconds. So it's, especially if you're soloing, it makes things a lot easier so you can actually get your sneak attack. I'm not quite sure if that one actually requires a bluff skill check or if it just happens. So I've got it trained skill-wise in bluff.
What'd you start with your stat? What's kind of your stat breakdown? How do you go about choosing stats for this build?
Oh, okay. Well, to start off, it's definitely intelligence based because that's where you're getting most of your abilities from. And you really need to crank that intelligence because you're so far behind with a couple of the rogue levels there. You really got to make sure you keep your intelligence up so that your time bombs and whatnot are actually proccing. And of course, you need a decent dex. I have it starting off with 18, which requires about a +3 tome by level 21. But if this is a second life build or whatever, you can put some more points in there because halfling, you can go up to 20. And then Constitution is just 12 with Strength at 6, Wisdom 10, and Charisma 8, just because those stats are unrequired. Although...
You already said it was a halfling. And then what was your class breakdown?
Sorry. It was Rogue 12, Ranger 6, Artificer 2. So I've got the 2 Arty for your Rune Arm use. Honestly, I really wish I could fit in that 13th Rogue level, but the Ranger 6 is to pick up the core 6 from Deepwood Sniper, which is the ability to... The actual ability itself, Sniper Shot, is kind of meh, but the secondary effect it has, which causes them to get bluffed for 4 seconds, is pretty amazing, especially if you're soloing. Just makes it a lot easier to get sneak attacks off.
Right. So why don't you walk us through kind of some of your feat selections?
Okay, well, first off, I picked up the Dragon Mark of Healing. It's not as awesome as it used to be, just because we've gotten into epic levels and whatnot. But it's still good enough that it's definitely worth the enhancement points, especially because I've picked up Empowered Healing at level 12. Obviously, I picked up the standard range package, point blank shot, rapid reload, precise shot. Although
some of the
I
standard
get
range ones.
Yeah, but a lot of that I actually get out of Ranger and Artificer. It's just given to me for free. And because I'm a rogue, I end up picking up 2 favorite enemies. So Undead and Construct are just chosen just because I know those are a huge pain in the ass for a, pardon my French, for rogues. So I figure the extra couple points in damage will help you deal with that. After all that, as well as Empowered Healing, unfortunately you don't have much to play with. So there's really only one extra feat. And if you can manage to fit it in, and you've got Past Life Cleric, it's actually a pretty good addition to the Dragon Marks of Healing. It's you end up doing by level 20, 15 D4, which is not a great heal, but if you have enough heal amp and positive spell power, which you'll have a decent amount from Ranger, it's a pretty hefty heal. If only to add on top of your DM of healing. And the +2 to heal is nice too.
What's your skill kind of breakdown, skill choices?
Well, to start off is use magic device, search, disable device. And I know many people would advise against this, but I still love spot. I have a terrible memory, so actually remembering where traps is going to get me killed. So I always take spot, especially on a rogue where I've got the extra points. Then obviously I take heal so that I can get my positive spell power up. Balance is always good so that I can actually continue standing. And then optionals are either move silently and hide if you're into the sneaky, or you can pick up Open Lock and Haggle. Open Lock you really only have to put 4 points into, so that's pretty much up to you.
So Wizened Man in the chat room wants to know why you chose Empower Healing rather than Maximize.
Because it increases my healing by 75% instead of 50. And I'm not going to be doing any other spellcasting.
Isn't Maximize 100 spell power? I think Maximize has higher spell power, but
yeah, but it doesn't affect heal, no.
It doesn't. The heal spell. It doesn't affect the heal spell, but it will affect positive energy, spell power. If you can apply it, you can't always you can't apply Maximize to the heal spell, I think is how it works. But you do get it'll give you spell power to spells that it will affect. Whether or not it affects the dragon marks, I'm not positive. I haven't used the halfling dragon marks for a lot since they changed them, basically.
Yeah. Huh. Well, that's definitely an option, but
if you're gonna
prefer being able to.
If you're gonna be a ranger too, you might consider Empower Healing a little more, because you can use it with your cure spells, and it will be more cost effective per spell power point. So there's a bit of a trade-off there.
Mainly, I have it for the heal, because I'm pretty sure you can use Maximize on the cure spells, but not heal, if I remember correctly.
The heal spell, that's correct. You cannot use Maximize on the heal spell or Reconstruct.
Yeah, so that's why. So technically, yeah, you could go with Maximize, but I like having my heal as powerful as possible.
Actually, for that matter, I'm not sure if I'm trying to remember if Empower Healing works on the heal spell too. It may not. I don't quite remember off the top of my head. So you walked us through skills. You have some ranger levels. Are there really spells that you're kind of taking, or do you just kind of pick some to because you got to fill them?
I mostly grab just buffs and heal spells. Honestly, the spells are just I don't take the ranger levels for spells, so it's I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, that's usually how that works. So let's walk us through some of your enhancement. What are some key enhancements that you want to get here?
Well, like I said, definitely the Deepwood sniper. The core 6 is it's an okay clicky ability, but the secondary effect, as I mentioned earlier, is kind of the linchpin of the build. Otherwise, I would do the 18 row 6 arty. Or 18 row 2 arty. Sorry, I don't have 24 build points or 24 levels. Although that would be cool. Obviously, with Rogue, we're mostly going into mechanic. With the recent changes, there is a lot of goodies in there. If only being able to get the extra sneak attack dies onto the great crossbows. It does hurt not getting expert builder, which is the level 18 core. Because that is pretty awesome. +2 critical modifier with the great crossbow. So like I said, it is definitely an option to go the 18 rogue 2 artificer, but there's all kinds of crazy stuff in there, especially my favorite, which I just called the nuke, but it's called time bomb. It is based on half rogue level, so you are 4 points behind, but if you go intelligence based, you can usually get it past quite well, DC wise, and it's definitely one of my favorites. And with the recent changes, great crossbows now vorpal on a 19 to 20 instead of just a 20. The fletching is one of my favorite ones though, just because I don't have to worry about having returning bolts all the time. So I can actually use bolts other than my summoned ones. So if I need to use DR passing. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the like rat construct and what's the other one? Disable construct are still kind of meh. They're not bad abilities, but you don't face constructs all that often. So it's not really worth the hotbar slot. So I have it off in a hotbar to the side. So occasionally I'll remember to use it. So I just don't waste the AP on it. I'm sure other people swear by them, and it's mostly my fault that I don't get much use out of them. But I just don't bother using them. In Deepwood Sniper itself, which is where the majority of my points are going, halfling, mechanic, Deepwood Sniper. Combining the increased point blank shot range from mechanic and far shot in Deepwood Sniper, as well as the extra sneak attack die. Despite being a level 12 rogue, you actually end up with quite a few sneak attack die between Deepwood Sniper and mechanic. And yeah, sniper shot is the one I'm looking at. And that gives you +30 positive spell power as well. You can also get another sneak attack die for picking up stealthy, which is one of the reasons I say it as an option. You can pick up hide and move silently, because it gives you +3 to hide and move silently. And you're probably going to take it anyways because of the sneak attack die. Again, picking up some more healing for yourself is empathic healing. You can do a lesser vigor or mass lesser vigor effect, which is always nice.
Are you using the Harper tree much here?
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that because I don't have it unlocked yet, so it's not something I've considered.
I think if you're going
So
for an intelligence based, I think a lot of folks like dabbling in Harper, so you
yeah,
know the angles and stuff like that.
yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, I didn't even consider it because I don't have it, so it's not something that crossed my mind. On the other hand, you've already got your damage is already intelligence based, so it's less of a thing. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Divine Might, know the angles and stuff. It's I understand why people love it. It's a really good ability. I just don't like having to pay attention to something I have to click on every 2 minutes. It's long enough that I'll forget about it, and it's too short that it won't last for a whole fight.
Yeah, I get that. I'm terrible with consumables.
Yeah.
So what are
Again,
some?
that's mainly a me issue.
So what are kind of some past lives that you like for this build?
Oh, yes, past lives. I should have those written down. Out of all the past lives I looked through, the two most useful ones for the passive past lives are Paladin for the heal amp or Ranger for the range damage. There's other ones like Monk, which just should give you a straight +1 damage, but that's useful for everyone. Specific to this build is Paladin or Ranger for your range damage and your heal amp. And there's a lot of self-healing in this between the couple spells you take up from Ranger, the lesser vigor you pick up from Deep Sniper, the DM of healing gets you a lot. But if you happen to have a past life cleric, the active past life, the one that you actually have to spend a feat on, is pretty decent for this build.
And then let's talk about some gear. What are some important pieces of gear that you like on this build?
And there comes my weakness. I don't know most of the gear in the game. I've always just sort of played quests, and if I get cool stuff, I equip cool stuff. It's not really a thing that I follow. I find it's just if I start looking up gear and making a gear set, I get burnt out. So I get what I get. But obviously, you're looking for a great crossbow. You'll probably wear light armor, and there's some pretty cool stuff out there.
We should note that
honestly,
you're using great crossbows as opposed to repeaters and stuff like that.
Oh yes. I just with the increased rate of fire, great crossbows have gotten quite good, and the changes to mech, which make it so that you crit on a 19 to 20. Unfortunately, with this build, you don't get the +2 critical multiplier, which is insane. Which is why it would be really hard for me to choose between this and an 18-2. But I liked the sniper shot so much, I'd probably still end up going for that. And they're massive, and you're a halfling, so it's awesome.
Great. And then let's say, what are some epic destinies that will work well with this build?
For the main 2 destinies I was looking at for this build is either Shadow Dancer or Shradi. It really depends on what you want to go with. And you're going to end up twisting in something from the other one, regardless of which one you choose. Shadow Dancer gets you a lot more sneak attack. It gives you a couple cool intelligence-based spells like Shadow Puppet. So if you want to be more roguey, you go for the Shadow Dancer. If you want to focus more on some secondary effects on your actual great crossbow hits, you're going to want to go Shradi and then pick up a couple things from Shadow Dancer. Personally, I'd probably end up going Shadow Dancer and then twisting in the Stay Frosty and whatnot, or whatever happens to work for that. And then there was one thing that I was thinking about. I think it's Divine Crusader. One twist that would be pretty good for you is it's in one of the divine ones, but it increases your positive spell energy by 30. Here it is, healing power in the Exalted Angel. It's a tier 1, and it's a pretty decent twist for a 30 increase to your positive spell power.
Awesome, thanks. And you already mentioned that a good variation of this is to go 18 Rogue, 2 Artificer. You lose the Deepwood Sniper, but you get in return a little bit more boost and your normal crossbow damage. So
yeah, getting +2 to the multiplier as well as another 4 DC on any of your abilities is pretty potent. It would be a hard choice for me, to be honest.
I think a good way of looking at it is how much are you going to be soloing. Your Deepwood Sniper splash really benefits a solo player since we're going to get more sneak attack damage with that, as opposed to the rogue play.
If you've got a full party, you've got someone covering, taking the aggro for you, the Deepwood Sniper becomes less useful.
Great.
Most definitely.
So thanks for that. We'll go over my build now, which is going to have a lot of the same features, but this is a pure Artificer, so it's going to be more Artificer flavored. I wanted to kind of give a little bit more of a contrast of, I'm talking about crossbows, not just talk about the mechanic, but also talk about the Artificer, which is also the one I have more experience with. So, as far as stats, Intelligence is going to be a primary stat. You get a lot of spell casting with an Artificer. You can use it for damage or to attack, depending on which spell you use, and or if you're using Harpertree. Constitution obviously is pretty good. Dexterity is important, but you only really have to hit certain benchmarks, and they're all feat-based. Now, the way that I laid out the feats, you need a 13 dex at level 4, so you can take Rapid Shot at level 4. You need 19 dex by level 6, so that at level 16, so you can take Improved Precise Shot, and then you want to level 21 by level 21. If you can't make it by 21, you can do it at level 24. It just involves switching 2 feats around, realistically. The race for this, I really like Warforged for Artificers, or Blade Forged if you want to go that route as well. With this build, you would have to reincarnate 2 of the Blade Forged levels out, but you can certainly do a Blade Forged with this. I went pure Artificer. There's some other builds where you can kind of mix and match some levels in there, and that's totally fine. 2 Monk gets you, or 2 Rogue gets you Evasion. If you do 2 Rogue, you can play a little bit with the mechanic tree. But I kind of like pure Artificers for this. Feats. So there's some tricks to playing with the feats here. You get a lot of bonus feats as an Artificer, and you want to make sure that you kind of plan out when you're going to use those bonus feats and what you're going to use them on. You can always use them for meta magics, so that's a great way to do it. However, if you want to get improved critical range and improved precise shot more or less as fast as you can get them, you're going to want to use some bonus feats for that. So for starters, you get rapid reload automatically at level 1. Also at level 1, I took point blank shot. Level 3, I took precise shot. And then with the first bonus feat at level 4, I took rapid shot. This requires dexterity 13, so you got to make sure you have that hit. And then, let's see. I took Mithril Body or Adamantine Body at level 6. If you're not a Warforged, you'll probably want to take Construct Essence instead of this. That lets you get healed for repair damage, or by repair spells. They're 50% less effective. You also lose some effectiveness of your healing from normal healing if you do take Construct Essence as another race. I've tried that. It wasn't bad, but it certainly wasn't a primary. I didn't feel like I was able to primarily heal myself through really dangerous situations. Was kind of where it came down on. So I went with a Warforged. I found that to be much more survivable in terms of being an Artificer.
Yeah, here's hoping that they try to improve the Construct Essence when Master Maker comes out. It sounds like it's really something that needs to have some sort of it needs some improvement, and I hope they work it into Master Maker.
Yeah, I think you can certainly improve that in an enhancement tree really effectively and make it a little better for sure. I just didn't get a lot of as much bang for my buck as I did with just being in a Warforged. So
Yeah.
if you aren't going to be a Warforged, I like Construct Essence. It was a good choice for the build. I just like Warforged better, personally. Plus, Warforged has a pretty strong tree. For the bonus feat at level 8, so bonus feat at level 8, the feat at level 12, 15, and 18, you can kind of move some of this stuff around. Obviously, with the bonus feat, it's got to be one of the mathematics on the list. But for those 4 slots, I like Maximize, Quicken, Empower, and Precision. Maximize and Empower boost your spell power, which works for rune arms, also your spells. You're not going to have a ton of attacking spell. I don't use a lot of the attacking spells, but I do use like Flame Turret and Blade Barrier. So I like having those 3 meta magics. The other one is Precision, which you can put in any one of these slots. Precision is a stance that works with range. It gives you a little bit better to hit, plus 5%. It also gives you 25% fortification bypass. And since you can't...
Yeah, which is why I picked it up.
Yeah, you can't use power attack and precision at the same time, but we can't use power attack because we're range anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So we like precision. Let's see. So at level 9, I took kind of a... I know we're talking about Crossbow Builds, but I take Many Shot. The reason why I take Many Shot is it's not too hard to find a bow. You can carry some arrows around, and you already have all the prereqs for it. So you can pick up Many Shot. It's a nice quick boost of damage. You have to keep in mind that if you use it, you lose a bunch of double shot. Basically, you lose all your double shot for a minute after you activate it. It has a 2-minute cooldown, but it can pile a lot of damage into a short amount of time frame, which can be a fairly effective way of maybe clearing a boss or something like that. We'll talk about endless.
To be fair, losing your double shot as on a repeater, not that big of a deal because it's already reduced in effectiveness.
Yeah, it's something you got to consider with Many Shot, and really, for me, what it means more is I don't actively seek out a lot of double shot, because if I'm using Many Shot every 2 minutes, my double shot is already only half as effective just from a time standpoint. So it's not double shot's not something I'm going to be seeking a lot out of. But it's 1 feat. You got it with your ranger levels. The one feat, because I don't get it auto granted. But you already have other prereqs for it, and it's a big boost of DPS over a short time frame.
Yeah.
At level 12 for the bonus feat, I took Improved Critical Ranged, which is more or less as soon as you can get that. And then for the bonus feat at level 16, I took Improved Precise Shot, which is more or less as soon as you can get that. I left the 20th feat slot on this open, partly because I forgot to put something in there, partly because I kind of covered all the main basics here for heroic feats. Level 21 and level 24, I like Overwhelming Critical, and I like picking up Combat Archery. I think that's the right name. Overwhelming Critical gives you better criticals, which what's not to like about more damage. Combat Archery improves your range attacks by +1 weapon, which is great. We like more damage. So those are the ones that I like there. The level 27 feat, there's a lot of options there. I kind of waffle back and forth on what I like to take there, so I kind of left that. It's a good option for you to kind of pick what you want, but Blinding Speed's always a decent choice. Permanent Haste is nothing to scoff at. I know some people like Rune for a nice big damage boost, particularly since you're probably going to be focusing more on force spell power than anything else. So there's a lot of options there. The key is to kind of figure out your bonus feats and make sure you're taking feats you can take with your bonus feats when you can take your bonus feats. If you can make an archer, you might want to look at the bonus feat list for arties. Figure out where you're going to put some of those feats. You get 4.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to be aware of that.
Unfortunately, ranged characters are fairly set in their feats because of the range package. Like, there's not really much deviation in there. You kind of you either take those feats or you don't.
Yeah, and I should mention too, like when we talk about mithril body versus adamantine body, I like taking one of them. Just the way the game works right now, composite body isn't really that great unless you are going to be like a monk and you have to take it. Mithril body and adamantine body throw in a lot of PRR and some MRR. It's a great thing to have. So I really like having that. Excuse me. I personally went with adamantine body. The thing to remember with mithril and adamantine body on an artificer is whichever one you take, you need to account for the spell failure. Now their enhancements you can do it all with enhancements. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Adamantine is minus 35%. Mithril is 15%. So it's totally doable. You just got to make sure that you take care of that. You can also do it with an augment if you have blue slot in your docent.
Also, if you stick with the composite body, most of the armors look ugly. Personally, I find mithril to look the coolest. But if you want that heavy armor look, definitely pick up adamantine.
Yeah, and it does a lot for you. The adamantine gives you a lot of extra PR. There's also an enhancement that I like taking from the Warforged tree that you have to be wearing adamantine body. But we'll talk about that later. For skills, you get a bunch. You're going to be intelligence based, and artificers get I think 6 per level. So there's a fair. I mean, it's going to be hard for you to spend all your skill points. I take all the trapping skills.
I ran out of things to take on my rogue.
Yeah. You can tell because you're taking heal. Take the trap skills. I take spellcraft for spell power. I take repair on a warforged because it gets me more repair amp. Although, to be honest, I probably don't need more because I'm mostly using reconstruct. UMD is great. Their artificers have it as a class skill. Who doesn't like UMD? I will say on UMD, you don't need to worry about your charisma on this. I've never had a problem with my artificer on that regards. I take balance and jump because if I got points to spend somewhere and I don't know what to do with them, I put them in balance and jump. Jump makes it easier to jump around, which can be really great for kiting and getting up to high places. Balance it helps you get up from being knocked down. If you're knocked down, you're not be able to do anything, so sometimes it saves your life. The other one I'd like to take is concentration. And I know, and I've said this many times before, and I know it's not really the way a lot of people play now, but I like concentration for scrolls, particularly for an artificer. One of the cool things about playing an artificer is if you kind of make a little tiny bit of investment in it, you can actually be a really effective healer. This character, I don't know if necessarily this incarnation, but I have solo healed. I solo healed Tower of Despair on an artificer using scrolls and the cure, the throwing the cure serious potion. Had a little bit of help in part 3, but I was essentially the main healer on an artificer, and we won, and it worked out surprisingly well. Even I was surprised a little bit, actually.
I love the cure grenades; they're awesome.
Yeah. So a fun thing about playing an artificer and a rogue too, although artificers get some extra bonuses that rogues don't, you can actually do quite a bit with heal scrolls in certain situations if you need to pull those out. Not as much in Epic Elite anymore, but it's a nice utility to have. And on that, it's worth noting that artificers get bonuses to the level of scrolls and items and clickies and all that kind of stuff that they use. One great thing about playing an artificer, a stack of haste potions gets improved, so you get longer time out of the small variation of them. So that's great. Spells, you get a lot of spells in an artificer. I pretty much take every weapon buff I can get my hands on. I should probably change them out more often than I do, but I'm lazy and I don't like changing out spells a lot unless I really know I need something specific. But I generally just pick up all the weapon buffs. I'm generally trying to fill slots anyways. Flame Turret and Blade Barrier are obviously really great for clearing large groups. We already talked about Curative Mixture, the Cure Series, where you throw a potion. you get a lot of spells. It's a great spell for a little extra healing for your party. What's not to like? There's the Radiant Aura spell, which gives you 25% damage, incoming damage, which is fantastic. You can give it to other players if they're tanking something and they're getting smacked around. Love it. You can also use Tensors. They get that spell. You can scroll this, but I think I always seem to need to find something to take for spells. I think some people like to take damage spells here. I tend to not get too crazy with that. But so you can use Tensors. Just be aware it will affect your spell casting abilities and how often you cast spells. The other thing I like, there's the personal augments, which gives you it gives you either your intelligence to damage or your intelligence to attack. You can only use one of them. I almost always use the damage. Because my dexterity is high enough to use certain feats, I don't usually find a problem hitting things. With 21 dexterity minimum to get the combat archery feat, plus I don't usually intentionally find a dexterity item, but the items that I like tend to have dexterity on them already. So you end up with a lot of dexterity, and it's never really a problem for me. All right, enhancements.
Yeah.
You can say?
I was just gonna say with the rebalancing of AC and 2-hit and whatnot, with most builds, it's really not that hard to pick up 2-hit anymore.
Yeah, and you can, artificers can get a little extra crafting going. You can get, right now my artificer has gloves that give him +4 to attack. He's got goggles that are +11 to dexterity. There's a lot of places to get some extra to hit. I never find it to be a problem. Plus, the enhancements will actually give you +1 to hit with crossbows. Anyways, so
yeah,
I never find it a problem. Speaking of enhancements, I'm going to start with Battle Engineer. This is the enhancement tree that I live in with this guy. I go all the way up to the capstone with it. I get all the rune armor enhancements because that lets you move at full speed while using a rune arm, which is great. As a ranged character, I tend not to like to stand in melee, so I tend to kite stuff around a lot. And there were a lot of times before that enhancement came out where I couldn't use the rune arm because I needed that full run speed. Now it's not a problem. You can also improve your rune arm so that you can fire faster. The dissipate is less time. And you can charge it up to tier 3 without moving, or while moving, so that's great. There's a bunch of bonuses to attack and damage. Endless Fusillade is in this tree. It's at tier 5, which lets you fire a crossbow without reloading.
Yes, machine gun mode.
Yep, which is great. And it's worth noting that if you happen to have a great crossbow handy, I tend to use repeaters. But if you happen to have a great crossbow handy, this is a great time to pull it out and use that. Since you don't have to worry about the attack speed or the reload speed. There's also weapon attachment, which you can also get in the Warforged tree, but they don't stack. I take it here because I need the action points to get all the way to the capstone anyways. So I spent 41 points in this tree on my artificer. So I had just enough to get to the capstone. But I felt like I got pretty much all the stuff I wanted. Warforged and the Bladeforged tree. So the other thing with Battle Engineer is the cores reduce your spell. Some of the cores reduce your spell failure. In Warforged, you need to take however much spell failure reduction as you need after you take Battle Engineer. If you're in adamantine armor, it adds to everything. So you need all of that. There's repair amplification here. Honestly, if you're using Reconstruct, it's probably not that big of a deal. I haven't tried not taking it, but part of that was because I didn't really find things that were more compelling to take on the surface anyways. There's also, if you're Blade Forged, you can get a Reconstruct spell-like ability. It's kind of expensive because now you're spending another 6 points in here, but Reconstruct as a spell-like ability is great. There's an enhancement I mentioned earlier, Adamantine Durability. If you have Adamantine Plate, you can extra 10 PRR, so that's fantastic. And then there's a couple other places to spend a few points. I don't take much in Harper. If you have 3 points to spare, you can get an extra +1 to your weapon, which increases its damage, your spell power with it, because you get it as with the capstone for Battle Engineer. You can use whatever you're holding as an implement, so that's helpful. I don't really go much beyond that. Arcano Technician, I like the Wand and Scroll Mastery out of it. I like the spell crits. You just kind of got to figure out where you're going to spend those last couple of points, if you have any left, between Warforged and Battle Engineer. Gear-wise, this is kind of some higher-end gear, but it's kind of some stuff that I like for epic levels. Ring of the Artificer and the Stalker Ring out of the House C challenges are great for an Artificer. It gives you a one-click of Reconstruct as a little get-out-of-jail-free card if you're low on spell points. Or maybe it's on timer and you're really fast with the mouse clicking. It gets a couple augment slots. The Stalker Ring has a couple augment slots. It gives you Manslayer, which gives you Vorpal against humanoids on your weapons, which is great. And it's also got Ghostly on it, which I love. I like the Spyglass out of Crystal Cove. It's exceptional intelligence. It gives you a bonus to UMD. It has a slot in it. It's great. I usually put good luck in that slot. The Cloak of the Wolf out of the Evening Star challenges is a great choice here. You're not getting a lot of necessarily bang for the buck out of the dodge, but I think it's got threat reduction. You get things like there's an attack bonus on there, and it'll fill out whatever dodge you can get, which is good. Mentau's Goggles, which is a high-end level 27. I think it's 27. It's out of the Orchard. But it's great. It gives you UMD. It gives you 11 to Dexterity, Seeker bonuses. It's a fun one. There's also some goggles out of Three Broke Cove that reduce your spell point costs and give you Impulse Power, which is another great option. Those are just kind of some quick hitters that are really great items. I also tend to use the Bracers out of High Road because they have Blurry on them and resistance bonuses. As far as docents go, there's a fair number of options, but when you get into epic levels, you're probably going to be looking at some kind of dragon scale armor. The green armor is a good choice. Since I have heavy armor, Shadow Dragon armor with the epic DR is a really great choice as well. As far as some past lives go, kind of the same ones you mentioned in terms of like the Ranger for range damage. You can use some Artificer or past lives. I'm not big on past lives in general, but I don't really feel a need to get a lot of past lives on this character. They're not going to make or break the build by any means.
Yeah, Artie's a pretty solid build for just a regular 32 point no pass love thing.
Yep, it's really solid, really easy to play. There are some people that have rightly pointed out that Artificers aren't as competitive in terms of damage with some of the stuff that's out there right now. They obviously lack a third enhancement tree, which is true. But they're really solid characters, and they have a lot of really great utility going on. Their spell, if you really get the spells and your rune arms and some spell power going, plus the crossbow, you can do some decent damage. Some Destiny
also
stuff.
Blade Barrier.
Too. Yep, Blade Barrier. Artificers are actually pretty powerful leveling up. Once they get Flame Turret, Flame Turret's like Blade Barrier light, and it's pretty potent in and of itself. Plus, it actually takes aggro away from you, which is also nice.
Yeah, that's another thing with Master Maker. Again, I know this is just speculation, but I'd love it if they added like the ability to change the element of the Flame Turret.
It could be kind of fun. As far as Epic Destinies go, Shirati is obviously really good for ranged. I got a surprisingly good amount of bang for my buck out of Draconic. You tend to have a decent amount of universal spell power anyways, and the energy burst is actually quite potent. Divine Crusader actually was pretty useful, pretty good tree to be in. And if you know you're going to be, say, kiting Spectral Dragons, or maybe you need to tank the Storm Reaver for some reason or another, Sentinel is actually a really good tree. It gives you a lot of a lot of hit points, and become quite a bit durable. Although I mean, some of these are things that like a lot of characters can get a lot of benefit out of. So variations
Yeah,
on
well, that's one of the things. That's one of the things I like about the Epic Destinies in general is, unless you're like a really hardcore DC caster, you can spread your wings to the Divine Primal. You'll find a little something everywhere for your character. It's just, if you're a DC caster though, you're pretty much stuck in your sphere.
Yeah, and even though I'm Warforged and have a lot of self-healing, I like taking Cocoon as well in this character. Partly because he sometimes doubles as an ad hoc healer to help keep other party members alive, and you're gonna have a decent amount of spell power in everything. So if you can go back to Gear 2 and say something with universal spell power in it is a pretty solid choice as well. And there's a couple places you can get something like that. The Reaver boots are probably my favorite. They're not as high as you can get some other places. It's only plus 80, but there's also nice other bonuses involved there. Some variations on this. I haven't varied too much from Pure Artificer. I like a lot of the stuff that you can get out of that. However, I know some folks that have splashed to get evasion. You can do a lot with splashing into Rogue these days, and use a lot of the crossbow stuff from Mechanic as well. So there you go. There's some ideas on crossbow builds. Is there anything you want to say in closing before we move on to news?
No. Crossbows are awesome, finally. Woo!
Yeah.
Especially great crossbows.
The crossbow changes were really helpful too. They made the reload part of the attack animation. So with that,
the reload used to be so crippling. It was like, oh, now I got to reload. I'm gonna go make a sandwich.
Yeah. We're going to talk about game news. We're going to try and cruise through a lot of this. There was a fair bit of news, and some of it's very crunchy. I'll try and hit some of the really big points. But we're going to link to a lot of the stuff in our show notes. There's a Players Council update that came out. So if you want to read some of the experiences in Players Council, there's a whole long list of things that they have worked on this year. Probably at least half of it is stuff that's already out in the news, and some of it was kind of teasery stuff. I'm not going to go through the list, but we'll link to that in the show notes if you want to check that out. Thanks to the Players Council for serving us in that way. There was a producer's letter. It came out on Wednesday. So some of the highlights. They have made strides to reduce lag and improve stability. Stifle your mocking laughs. They have. One of the larger projects that they are working on is the transfer of the game servers and other hardware to a new data center. The new facility will provide both DDO and Lotro more stability, greater CPU power, and better networking capability. It will complement the ongoing efforts to reduce lag. They don't have a specific date for this, but there will be more information to follow, and they'll let us know when that's going to happen. Update 26 is coming in June. It will focus mainly on the new class, the Warlock, which we'll talk about some more. Somebody's excited. Update 27 will follow in July. So we get packs in back-to-back months. Includes an all-new adventure area pack that returns to Shavraz, showcasing the Archon side of the Endless War. It will tie into the Mysterious Remnants. You get to have fun on the plane of battle. You help the Archons unraveling the mystery. It'll have 3 dungeons and a raid. It will be free to VIPs. They've been hearing our feedback, and they're going to revamp the DDO store. You'll still be able to purchase with the stuff you're normally able to pay with. They'll have more to say about that later, but they're going to give it a facelift and make it better. There will also be more updates. Players will be able to increase their character level 30. They'll have more adventure packs, an epic and extended version of the Shroud, and a new pack that relates to the Veil of Twilight, an epic version of Greensteel. So a lot of fun coming up. He also posted kind of some responses to some questions and comments that are being posted, and I'll go through this pretty quick. He said that he should not tell players that Ranger will be next once we finish up Warlock in case something causes us to change our plans, nor can I say that Fighter will be sometime after that, probably after we work on a new Favored Soul tree. Sadly, he can't confirm any of that information. So those are the plans, but they may change. See, they want QA to fully engage on the Warlock release, it's a big thing for them to do. Update 20, he says, I should not confirm that Update 26 is an additional release. The plan is still to release 3 more content packs this year, but plans may change. But basically, the kind of the inference I'm getting here, and some birds have told me that basically they're splitting this update into 2, ones with the warlock and ones with the adventure pack. So that's kind of what's going on there. That's not. They're basically adding a pack or a release. It's not, well, here's 2 of our 4 for the year. That's not my understanding. That's not what's going on.
It's a bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus. If all goes well, we'll be migrating the game environments and accounts to new hardware and more modern data center infrastructure. Let's see. As they previously mentioned, the biggest weakness of casters currently is putting out good boss DPS without completely draining spell points. They will be addressing that with some kind of new high-level damage over time spell, but they have no time to announce it, no time frame to announce, other than it probably will be sooner than 3 years. The brand new store will be unrelated to any current store, DDO, or otherwise, and all users will be able to use the store regardless of Steam, just like the current store, which was some questions that came up. All right, let's talk about warlocks and see how fast we can talk about a whole lot of information. So here we go. Some updates. They've decided to swap the cone shape into Soul Eater and the chain shape into Tainted Scholar to better fit their natures. It has been announced they're tentatively going forward with different shapes will be getting different spell power scaling. They aren't getting different die sizes. They haven't settled. Go ahead.
This might just be me being dumb, but it actually took me forever to realize that you can't actually use a weapon when you're using Eldritch Blast. So just know that. The only one that you can use a weapon with is the aura, so pretty much just melee weapons.
And to balance them, they're going to give them different spell power ratios, as opposed to you messing with the die sizes. So the damage won't change. The base damage won't change. It'll just be the spell power. They haven't settled on what kind of scaling each will get. It's not determined yet that a sorcerer will get higher or lower spell power scaling than a warlock. Current paper design for Soul Eater has some marker debuffs that trigger additional damage, which we'll kind of go over as well. Additionally, they did say that effects that trigger on spellcasting work on Eldritch Blast, such as the Lantern Ring or Rainbow, and there was much rejoicing. I might actually have to get a Lantern Ring, even though there's not really any other reason to get it than the extra light damage. But, okay, now the fun stuff. They released and again, this is tentative, this is where we are right now, things are subject to change, blah, 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 blah. Let's talk about enhancements. Because they released the first pass of enhancements. So, Tainted Scholar. Tainted Scholars have learned a wide variety of spells from other warlocks and have extensively studied methods for enhancing Eldritch Blast, such as Eldritch Essences for changing the damage type, or alternate active forms of Eldritch Blast, such as Chains. They've got great damage output, especially when they critically hit, and have access to Confusion, which makes enemies indiscriminately attack friends and foe. It's like Charm, but they can still hit you, and you can still hit them.
So no need to wait around until Mr. Wizard removes the charm at the end of the thing.
Exactly. But still great for causing chaos, and hopefully not lag as you introduce more AI things. But anyways, the core abilities. The first one, you get Tainted Spellcasting, which allows you, gives you a clicky for 10 Depravity, which is a counter that you get each time you damage enemies with Eldritch Blast for spells, except with positive energy. You get 1 Depravity every 7 seconds. Each additional trained Scholar enhancement reduces the cooldown by 1 second to a minimum of 2. You can have up to 10, which disappears on rest, death, or entering public spaces. What this does is, if you spend 10 Depravity, you get plus 25 spell power, universal, and a plus 2 bonus to all spell DCs. It lasts 20 seconds. You can use it once a minute, which is pretty powerful, actually. You also get universal spell power for each point spent in the tree, 3/4 per point. And Feathered Fall is added to your spell list. The second level, you get 10%, so the one you get at level 3, Tainted Lore, you get 10% spell critical damage, plus 1 to spell DCs, and plus 10 maximum depravity. You also get Web as a known spell. Stanch, which is level 3, gives you an ability that you activate for 7 depravity, and this is probably one of the things that's really subject to change because they've already changed it. You gain temporary hit points equal to currently 33% of your maximum health. They last for 1 minute. You have a -3 maximum hit points until you rest, which stacks. It says it stacks up to 99 times, which is left over when it was -1%. I'm going to assume it doesn't stack 99 times anymore. You also get more depravity and crushing despair as a spell. Tainted Lore at level 12, you get plus 20% spell critical damage. There's a lot of critical damage here. It's kind of crazy. +1 to Warlock spell DCs, more depravity, and you get Death Ward. Blood component at level 18, your Eldritch Blast attacks 10% faster. You get more depravity. You lose 25 hit points, which is kind of funny. You also get greater heroism, and then at level 20, your Eldritch Blast gets an extra 1d6. You get 30% spell critical damage and +4 charisma, more depravity, and energy drain. Yeehaw.
Now, one thing that is a little unique about the Warlock spellcaster is it's very focused on universal spell power as opposed to a specific spell type. So spellcraft isn't really going to be helping you much. You're mostly going to be looking for potency for boosting. You don't have much specific spell power.
I could easily see a, there's the Favored Soul wizard monk splashes running around that are really heavily into Shirati. I could see those Favored Soul levels becoming warlocks pretty easily. Just from the standpoint, if you do 12 warlock, I mean, just from this tree, you can get plus 30% spell critical damage. Throw in Shirati, like chain missile, and magic missile, and Shirati, and yeehaw. Plus, you have the Eldritch Blast.
I didn't even think about that.
You have Eldritch Blast to replace your Blade Barriers from Favored Soul. So I could see there being a lot of those builds running around.
The depravity system is pretty cool, too.
Yeah. So some of this stuff. So Tier 1, there's an ability that when you cast spells on yourself or allies, you get temporary hit points equal to a percentage of your charisma. Let's see, you can increase your Eldritch Blast damage by 1d4 from your pact, the pact damage. Level 2, there's a stance that and your Eldritch Blast base damage is poison instead of force. The Tier 2 is where you get the chain. There's a activated Eldritch Blast that stuns. Let's see, you can again increase your pact damage, which you can do at every tier, it looks like. There's also Wand and Scroll Mastery here. In Tier 3, so you can have an Eldritch stance that makes your Eldritch Blasts have a chance to slow enemies down by 50%. You can get the Confusion ability, which is there's a targeted ability at that level. Tier 4, you can make your Eldritch Blast damage piercing instead of force.
Which is apparently magical piercing, which means it won't be reduced by piercing DR.
Right. It was initially untyped. They changed that to piercing because they don't want to just say it's untyped and then because that means that nothing can resist it. If they make it magical piercing, they can have some things resist it. And since Eldritch Blast is essentially your main attack, they correlated to like if fighters had an ability that whatever weapon they were doing bypassed all damage reduction, that would essentially become a must-have. So they didn't want that to be true of this. I think most people are still probably going to take that if they're going to be doing a lot of Eldritch Blasting. Let's see. You can make it so that your Eldritch Blast auto seeks, homes in, and inflicts a negative level 10% of the time with the same ability. This is a Tier 4 still. And you can also get a 10% chance to confuse non-boss monsters for 6 seconds with your Eldritch Blast, which is the same confusion we've been talking about. And then say most non-bosses, basically the stuff that you could charm right now anyways. Tier 5, you get extra damage to your Eldritch Blast. You can cast a Mass Confusion and a an exploding Eldritch shot as well. Plus, you can get +1 to all DCs. So things that they mentioned regarding this tree. There's some discussion about costs for the confusion and Eldritch Ball stuff. It will probably cost either depravity, which is what it currently costs, or possibly spell points. The effects of speed while attacking using Eldritch Blast is its own kind. It isn't melee or ranged. It's Eldritch Blast speed. Confused enemies are not likely going to be considered charmed for the purposes of bonuses, augment summons, and other things. They do expect some players to essentially use confusion in the same places they would use charms, but in a way that requires less fiddly bits, specifically using Dismiss Charm. They'll probably be pulling back on the power level of Stanch. Yes, negative 25 hit points represents giving up some of your blood. Let's see, they did change that. The current thinking is the confusion doesn't have any chance to break on damage despite not following the pen and paper version. And the piercing damage, like Blade Bearer, it will still scale with spell power. Type of damage determines which spell power, not whether or not it does. It's not physical, it's magical, like Blade Bearer's magical slashing damage. Any thoughts on the Tainted Scholar before we move on to the next one?
I really, like I said earlier, I really like the depravity system, and I was a little worried about when I first saw the amount of spell points that warlocks get, but it seems as this is their spellcaster tree, a lot of it doesn't rely on spell points, so it's less of an issue. So that you can actually, between Eldritch Blast and all the depravity-based stuff, you can continue blasting as a warlock without actually worrying much about your spell points.
Indeed. All right, let's talk about Enlightened Spirit. Unlike other warlocks, Enlightened Spirit turns from the passive light, which reflected in their damage and types of abilities they get. They're better at close range AoE than other warlocks and have a lot of abilities to support themselves, allies, and summons. Again, this blast shape works differently. In the first core ability is a toggle which takes off Eldritch Blast, and instead puts it as an aura, which puts out damage every few seconds. While it's active, you can't fire normal Eldritch Blast, but you can wield weapons. The aura deals damage passively. There are also 2 large blast abilities in the tree that can be used whether or not you have the aura active. They expect this to be popular with cross-class builds, but should stand on its own as a warlock as well, if you're pure. So Tier 1 for the core ability is the aura. Tier 3, you get immunity to fear, and allies around you get +4 morale bonus to saving throws against fear. You also get +5 healing amp. For the level 6 version, while wearing light armor, you gain +10 maximum hit points and +5 MRR. If you're wearing medium armor, you get 20 hit points and 10 MRR. Also, passively, the aura now affects enemies every 4 seconds. Its base is 8 seconds. At level 12, you project a 15-meter aura of menace, decreasing saving throws, attack, and armor classes. This is already in the game for, I think it's Favored Souls, or it's the Exalted Angel, I don't remember which. You also, at level 12, gain proficiency with all martial weapons. Yeehaw. The 18th level is Spirit Armor. While your aura is active, each time you are hit by an attack, you gain a stack of Spirit Armor, which is +1 PRR and MRR, and it stacks up 20 times. And your aura also ticks every 2 seconds. And the capstone, you get +2 Constitution, +2 Charisma, and a toggle that when enabled, you float above the ground, gain feather falling, and are immune to knockdown effects. When enabled, your Eldritch Blast gains 3d6 light damage, and you gain 10 melee power, range power, and universal spell power. Yeah. Some Tier 1 abilities. There's some PRR up to 6. See, you get some bonuses. You can make your aura give bonuses to AC for you and your allies, and you also get some extra hit points. There's some MRR here, up to 6 again. There's a hate toggle, so you can get extra threat damage if you want it. Tier 2, you can cast Resist Energies as kind of a spell-like ability, but the SP cost is kind of high. It costs 60 per cast, and it's not mass, it's single target. Spiritual Bastion, while your aura is active, you get up to 10 MRR, or 10 PRR, and nearby allies get up to 3. There is a multi-selector. You can get either light, positive, or universal spell power. You can get the benefit of shield permanently. There's an action boost for defense. Tier 3, there is you can fire an Eldritch Blast and an AoE centered on you. All enemies caught in the burst also take 2d6 light damage that scales with spell power, plus any other effects your Eldritch Blast produce. This ability shares a cooldown with Cleave, which is kind of interesting. Let's see, you can make your aura give MRR up to 10 and 3 to your allies. There's another selector for spell power between light, positive, and universal. There's some bonuses to summons for fortification and PRR and MRR. See, tier 4, you can gain proficiency in medium armor. You can get extra light damage, up to 3d6 light damage on Eldritch Blast, melee attacks, and range attacks that scales with spell power. Hee-haw. You can get Cure Moderate Wounds as a spell-like ability, which is the closest thing these guys get to any kind of healing. You can give melee, range, and universal power to your summons. Tier 5 is a bigger blast. You can fire off with Eldritch Blast and AoE centered on you. That does 10d6 light damage plus Eldritch Blast, and that ability shares a cooldown with Great Cleave. So you can basically choose if you want to use Cleaves or these abilities if you're kind of feat starved. Seems like they do a pretty good chunk. See, you can get extra healing amp with your aura for you and your aura and your allies. See, you can you can call upon your patron and convert the space around you into positive energy. Basically, you can do a radiant burst from the radiant servant tree. You can get displacement or 25% concealment and 10% dodge on your summons. And you can also have displacement as a spell-like ability. Let's see. In this tree, you can get light damage that scales with spell power for all that stuff. These are comments from the devs. There's a lot of incentives in other classes right now to go heavy armor or no armor at all. There aren't as many to stick with light or especially medium, so that's why they kind of chose there. You could make a heavy armor warlock work, but you're not going to get a lot of benefits for doing so. There was talk about reducing the martial weapon proficiency to a lower level. However, they don't want it low enough for every single warlock takes it. They expect 20 pure 20 warlocks in this tree to be able to hold their own in a fight. Probably not be as strong with their weapon as attacks as most melee weapons, but they will be getting a big chunk of their damage from the aura, and as some called them the spirit cleaves. Let's see, the aura range is subject to change, but it's the same size as the other standard AoE death aura kind of stuff. Any thoughts here before we move on?
Yeah, I definitely love this tree. The summon boosts seem a little out of place. I'm not really sure where those are coming from, but the rest of the tree will definitely make a very tough warlock. And it definitely would fit well with a multi-class with either fighter or paladin. Probably more paladin just because of the ability to pick up all the light or positive damage. Personally, I'm going to be making a Knight of the Chalice, Divine Defender, Enlightened Spirit, Fey Pact, just because I love the idea of a paladin warlock.
Yeah,
if only I could fit in Tiefling there.
There's certainly a lot of fun stuff in here for sure. I think it'll be a pretty popular tree. Even just six levels of warlock splashing into a paladin tank could be pretty potent. If you really
or the other way
tree.
around.
Yeah, that as well. All right, Soul Eater. Your pact makes you an extension of your patron's hunger. Your body and mind become more inhuman, and your ability to consume souls and life force also feeds your patrons. Your attacks are the life essence of your targets. The core stuff. The first one, you get +1 damage with melee and ranged attacks, and +5 spell power for each core ability you take. The second one, you get 25% fortification and 4 saving throws versus poison and disease. Third one, you gain immunity to fear, Your melee range and blast effects also give the target shaken effect. It has no saving throw. It can only occur once every second. The next tier, you get another 25% fortification and +4 saving throws. Your consumed damage over time is increased by 1d10, stricken by 3d6, and greater hunger by 1d6. We'll explain those in a minute. Eldritch Seeker, which is the 18th level 18 one, you get a 5% chance to critically hit with your spells and Eldritch Blast. And the capstone, +4 to Charisma. You also get a necromantic spell. You consume the soul of your target enemy, killing them instantly unless they make a will saving throw DC 18 plus warlock level plus charisma bonus. So it's basically a level 8 spell. That's a death spell. It works on undead, but not construct and other creatures with no life force. If the target survives, it loses 20 PRR and MRR for 6 seconds. And it's cool.
I wonder if it works on living constructs.
Like Warforged, presumably.
Yeah.
Because you can finger Warforged anyways. So, Tier 1, Consume, which is a ranged magical attack. Your magics consume bits of your opponent's form. You do 1d10 untyped damage every 2 seconds for 16 seconds. It can stack up to 3 times. Consume damage is increased with spell power. This is Tier 1. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can also get subtle spell casting, which reduces your hate, which these guys are gonna need. You can reduce saving throws by 1 up to 4 times, stacking up to 4 times with your attacks. And you can also get some extra melee range and universal spell power in the same ability, much like the Harpistry. Tier 2, Stricken is a ranged magical attack. You cause 3d6 or up to 96 bane damage and reduce the healing application of the opponent by 120 for 12 seconds. The reduction is negated by a saving throw, which can go up to 18 plus warlock level, plus the higher of intelligence or charisma modifier, which is kind of interesting. It also marks them with a stricken trait. As consume, I should mention, also marks them with a consumed trait, which is important for other stuff. Let's see. There's some stuff that allows you to reduce spell resistance, PRR, and MRR for things that have been hit by consume. When you use consume on an enemy, that the feeding increases your movement speed by 1% per warlock level for 20 seconds, which is kind of fun. See, you can... so there's a multi-selector at Tier 3 that you get a magical attack with a cooldown of 16 seconds. Enemies can negate it by a will saving throw, but not the benefit that you get. Basically, you can pick every stat other than charisma, and you make them lose 1d8 plus 2 damage to that stat, and you get 1d8 plus 2 damage or bonus to that stat. It's an insight bonus, so it won't stack with certain items, but we're talking up to a bonus of 10 here, which is pretty powerful.
With a minimum of 3, so...
Yeah. Stricken Soul against targets marked by stricken attack. Your Eldritch, melee, and range attacks reduce the target's power, melee, range, and spell power. You can get a cone attack. You can also get a spell-like ability, Burning Blood. Tier 4, your consume damage over time is increased by a d10. Stricken by 3d6, and your melee, range, and blast or eldritch attacks do 2d6 untyped damage when striking an opponent marked by the consume attack. You can, there's another ability that if something is marked by stricken, your attacks will do 1 vulnerability that stacks. You can steal life force, which you can either get positive or negative energy back from. You do up to 96 damage to a target and heal the same amount, either positive or negative. You can also get +1 to DCs of enchantments, illusion, and necromancy. Tier 5, You can increase your consumed damage by 1d10 again, stricken by 3d6, and greater hunger by 1d6. Let's see. If you can improve your cone so that it does 3 consecutive blasts with the cone attack. You can get extra temporary spell points based on your attacks. And you can get an extra 3% chance to critically hit with your spells and blasts. You also get Finger of Death as a spell-like ability. Yeah. And it's worth noting that Soul Eater is not planned for the first Lomania release. Consume and Stricken are universal spell power. Steal Life Force is standard spell range and universal spell power for the damage. Although positive and negative spell power should be affecting the healing. There you go. There's let's see, make sure I got everything in here. Yeah, that's all the stuff from this tree. So what do you think?
This begs to be multi-classed with a barbarian, just for the flavor alone. All of this screams barbarian, especially Ravager. I don't know if it'll be effective in any way, but I'm definitely going to make some sort of barbarian warlock. Not to say this can't stand on its own, though. It's a very powerful tree.
That's an interesting choice. I can definitely see myself going very heavily in that tree and doing some pretty heavy dabbling in Tainted Scholar tree. I'm not sure. Yeah. I think the biggest question is, which capstone do I want? Do I want the insta-kill spell, or do I want 30% spell critical damage? Is kind of the choice that you get there. But still, those are some pretty strong trees for sure. Let's see, some basic notes for warlocks in general. Eldritch Essences, there's a bunch of stances. You can only have one on at a time, which are mostly from the Tainted Scholar tree. There's blast shapes, so the single target cone, chain, or some other things. You can only have one of those activated, but there's a lot of things that that actually do an Eldritch Blast. See, there's a bunch. So there's a lot of activated blasts that are not shapes, but are more spell-like abilities. They are looking to do a custom combat idol while you are in Eldritch Blast mode. The shapes are obviously exclusive with the aura, like they are with themselves. Single target Eldritch Blast fires off a lot faster than 1 per 2 seconds, which is important when considering the aura. Let's see.
Yeah, one thing with the auto attack Eldritch Blast, so basically everything but the aura, while your weapons are gone, essentially, you're still counted as having them equipped. So if you have any particular requirements for an enhancement or whatever, it's like must have hand wraps equipped or something, you're still counted as having those equipped. They just don't do anything as part of your auto attack. So they're only suppressed, they're not gone.
Yeah, well, you can still use like a shield, presuming you get around the arcane spell failure. At the moment, rune arms work fine with Eldritch Blast. You don't get the arm imbue damage because they're not weapon attacks, but you can still fire them enormously, provided you have rune armor proficiency. See, they came out with these are some possibilities for past lives. For the passive feat, you are Warlock in a past life. Each time you get the feat, you get +3 MRR. You can stack 3 times. The active one, you can recall more about your past life. You get +3 to the Spellcraft skill. And you can use an Eldritch Ball 6 times per rest, dealing 1d6 force damage per 2 character levels. There was some questions about whether or not Eldritch Blast will be subject to anti-magic, auras, and global vulnerabilities. The basic Eldritch Blast attack is likely going to be considered a level 9 spell, which leads me to say that a Beholder will make it so you can't shoot them. Will blast attacks be considered for spells and subject to extended cooldown penalties from things like temperature transformation and combat expertise. They'll have to explore it, but it is likely that spell cooldown changes will affect Eldritch Blast, so something to be aware of. There you go. There's the Warlock news. There's a whole bunch of it. They certainly sound fun.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. There's a little bit of tweaking that hopefully ends up going through. I'm a little disappointed that there's no option to use a ranged weapon, because the only thing that allows you to use a weapon is the aura, which I doubt is very large. So you probably wouldn't be very effective at using a ranged weapon with it. But other than that, Warlock is very, very tempting.
Yeah, there's a lot of good options here. Let's see, bonus days. You get 10% heroic and XP or heroic and epic XP through Monday, May 25th. Yes, Monday. So that's a nice thing. We always like it when that happens. Let's see. You can also get double bonus points now through June 1st. Yeehaw! People always love when that happens. So that'll be a lot of fun. Store news for the other store news for the week. Let's see. You can get 20% off of True Hearts of Wood, Lesser Hearts of Wood, Quest XP, elixirs, healing items, and spell point potions. And the freebie for the week, you can get a bracelet of friends with the code FRND23, one per account. So if you like the bracelet of friends, there you go. It's a great time to do that. Community news: the Damsels of DDO take the wolf pack to the orchard. You can watch that video. This is the 143rd Chronicle. DDO Players News is giving away 5,000 turbine points. I think that's still going. You have to leave a comment on their webpage, that specific webpage.
Yeah, I think it's the end of the month it ends.
Something like that. I think there's like already 518 comments on it, or something like that. I think that's what they said on their show. The Highlanders of Malkir on Solona are hosting a Mark of Death teaching raid tonight. Tears Palladium on Galanda is hosting their annual Memorial Day ceremony in-game. The guild for the week, Harmony, is an Argonessan-based guild founded by a couple of longtime players looking to get a new guild off the ground. You can contact Arugar Jr. If you are interested in that. The comment for the week: what would a DDO adventure do if they somehow saw a television with a cartoon on it? I'm going to go with what my barbarian would do, and he would smash the TV with his axe.
My artificer would try to figure out what the how this device works, and they would try to recreate it and then weaponize it.
Yeah, good choices. See, DDO Players News had their 33rd episode, which was talking a lot about the Warlock. We talked about defense in our last episode for DDOcast. Vintage ad week on DDO Gamer. He had some funny ads, like vintage style ads. The Order of Syncletica looked at Zen Archer in a quest and just show what it can do. Ginger Spice got a shout out for his teaching raids, hotkeys, and more videos. Axel also got a shout out for his YouTube page. He's talking about hirelings, warlocks, and some other stuff. Dirty Kobold had episode 4 discussing Warlock. Longshot has had some advice for the DDO community in a new blog post. And Enrique had looked at quests on Heroic and Epic in a new blog post as well. Some videos that you can check out, not videos, some blogging kind of stuff you can check out. Of course, we'll link to the Dirty Kobold number 4. Let's see, DDO Players News. I think I had episode 34 come out in that time frame. After the Chronicle, DDO Players also reviewed the producer's letter. The Longshotters reviewed the producer's letter. Axel reviewed the producer's letter. He also had a dwarf enhancement video. The 16th episode of The Damsels of DDO came out. DDO Cocktail Hour had their 85th episode. And Iron Blaze is now blogging on DDO Gamer as well. We're almost done with the news here. See, DDOcast news. Tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time, we're going to be having a Vision of Destruction special. A bunch of... so we're getting together with the Damsels of DDO, some DDOcast folks, DDOcast Splat folks. We're going to do a special DDOcast Splat episode. We're taking iconic characters pretty much straight out of the box and going straight into Vision of Destruction. We will see how well that works. Here's to hoping. Let's see the other things going on. Guild feud. So we had a guild feud I think last fall. People really enjoyed it. They asked if we could do another one. It's been recorded. It'll be coming out next week with that episode. But in the meantime, you can play at home if you would like to. So what you do is we'll link to this in the show notes. You answer a quick survey. You get asked 10 questions that we asked 100 DDO players. If whatever answer you give, you get 1 point for everyone else who said that answer. Please note, this was before Update 25 and Temple of Elemental Evil. That's important. Don't use Temple of Elemental Evil as your choices. The top scorer will get 1,000 turbine points. Second place will get 500 turbine points. Additionally, the top scorer on each server will get a little goodie from Jerry. You can get a Lousy Docent chain shirt, a lucky hat, a Winter Wolf pup, a Snowy Owlbear, or a Merry Mini Mimic. So that's and those will combine. So if you're the top scorer, you'll get your server score and use the server bonus and the top bonus. Same probably for the second place, unless they're from the same server. Additionally, there will be random prizes, including 2 500 turbine point codes, 5 winners for those same items. While supplies last on each server, I have raid bypass timers, jeweler toolkits, and anniversary card potions to give away as well. So a lot of fun stuff going on. Lightning post. Enrique wrote in regarding the leading a guild episode. He said that we did a great job. This is with Voodoo and Bonnie Bew, discussing various aspects of guild leadership. He wanted to mention that he's the guild leader for the Crypt Crawlers on Thelanis, and he's run across a number of the situations we described. Crypt Crawlers has been around since 2006, and they are generally composed of middle-aged guys who basically log on whenever their real lives allow them to. The biggest catch-22 in recent years, he writes, is guild recruitment. The crawlers have always been carefree, fun guilds without heavy guild rules, and a lot of players only being weekend warriors. However, a lot of those players have had real-life changes and have had to drop behind them. He's been doing some recruiting, but some of the new players have been dropping out after a short time, which has made it pretty tough. He also did a blog post on recruiting as well. And he said thanks and good job. Horatio had his personal opinion, but he thinks that all defenses are best when layered and focusing yourself. One aspect of defense might be too taxing too often. This is in reference to our episode last week about improving defense. And it's true, you want to layer them. I think this kind of came out of this one that my personal approach is I focus more on PRR and MRR. Really, PRR and the MRR just kind of fills in as you're doing that. And then I kind of backfill in as much dodge as I can, and the AC is kind of whatever it turns out to be. That's kind of my personal method of doing it. I don't know, do you have a defense that you're kind of particularly like to do?
I know it's not that popular anymore, but I do love trying to crank my AC up. Obviously he is correct. Layering. My wizard tank is practically invincible just with the amount of different defenses he has. But once it gets through the displacement and whatnot, I like having my 100+ AC there just to take that final hit after it gets past displacement and concealment and all that crazy stuff. So it's not as popular, but AC is still definitely a thing that you can consider. Although it's really hard to get up there.
Yeah, and AC is probably the most diminishing return of them all, just because of the way that they changed the formula. So the more AC you get, the less effective it's going to be. You're never going to reach the 95% miss chance that you could in the olden days. But
yeah, PRR is probably your best bet right now.
Yep. All right. Day News also commented on the defense one. He wrote that displacement dragon mark is a great reason for playing an elf, since the duration is based off a character level and you can fit extended spell in, and it's even better. He's surprised that there aren't as many elven melee types. Also, the spell doesn't have somatic components, so it isn't subject to spell failure if you can cast it like you could from scrolls. It's true. I think probably the biggest reason why you don't see more elven melee types is the racial trees in general aren't very good unless you're doing some fairly niche builds. With the possible exception of I like the Warforged tree a lot. There's some stuff out of the human tree that I like, but generally speaking, I think your class trees aren't that good.
Racial.
I think the racial trees aren't that good.
You're almost in almost every situation. Spending a point in the racial tree is less powerful than spending a point in your class tree. I'd really like to see something where either you get racial tree points or you just get your racial stuff as you level, because almost nobody spends points in racial trees, and it's a shame because a lot of that stuff is really flavorful.
See, you wrote about deflect arrows, which is surprisingly good, increasing to phenomenal if you're a vanguard or ranger and have it able to work every 2 seconds, which is good. He also mentions that boulders lobbed by giants are treated as arrows too, which I didn't know, which is a little silly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, it's a good little tip. I think deflect arrows are really just physical missile attacks. So whatever they happen to be doing to make that happen, it's kind of more of an animation effect than anything else. Another way to improve defense is don't let them get close enough to hurt you. Yes, don't get hit is of course a defense. We didn't mention it. I thought about it, but I didn't. But yes, if you don't get hit, you're going to take a lot less damage, which is certainly an option. Although melee has a much tougher job of doing that, but there's some ways you can kind of get around some of that. You can circle kite as a melee too. You just have to do really small circles around them. Let's see.
And jumping. Lots of jumping.
Lots of jumping. If you really want to see some of that tactic in play, you can watch my Temple of Elemental Evil, the competition that Makar DDO is doing, which I didn't mention. But he's still doing it. You can kind of watch some of how I did some of that on a melee. And there's a lot of jumping around and a lot of stuff like that. So let's see. He was thinking Sun Elf personally for Warlock, which could be an interesting choice. He likes the idea of using Feywild tap for large extra spell points, which is a good choice. Although I have a feeling, based on the trees, I'm going to have a hard time finding, like, just not spending action points. So I think that's going to be more of my problem.
Warlock is very much a class that I might actually play single class, which is
there's a lot of places
rare.
to spend spell point or spend action points, and I don't think spending action points is going to be a problem.
No.
He also said we're probably going to see mob warlocks in the new Shadowwrath quest right away, which I assume to be true since we're going to be on a demon devil plane. That seems to make sense. Survey question for the week. Nick asks, what's the best way to get a free True Heart of Wood in-game?
Being that I've purchased every single one of my True Hearts, I don't really know.
Basically, to get a free True Heart of Wood, you have to have epic tokens, which you can get by running most of the lower-level, earlier epic content. So Sentinel, Carnival, Desert, Vaughn, the Dust series, what else? Red Fens. There's probably some more. You can also get epic raid tokens as well, which you can convert into those tokens. Also, the fragments convert up to tokens. You need 20 tokens to do that. Probably what people, if you are good at them, probably the most efficient manner of getting those tokens is Epic House C challenges. I think it's 300 materials for 1 token, and particularly when you get the challenge bonuses on, I have certainly gotten 2 tokens in a 10-minute run out of those. So you have to get good at the challenges. You have to get good at the challenges. You don't have to get good at all of them, but you have to figure out one that you can be good at and be efficient. Hint: you're probably going to go to Lava Caves or Extraplanar Palace, and you can farm those out pretty good. So that's probably...
Don't do the mansion one.
Yeah, the mansion one is pretty long. I mean, you can
It's
get more out of it.
random as to whether you complete it or not, really.
That's not entirely true. If you go to the assassin every time, it's... Well, I guess if you're trying to get through the doors, yeah. But I usually don't have too much problem doing that. But there's some choices there. With that, do you have anything that you want to plug before we head out?
Minion Monday. Come watch us every Monday. Last week, we were unfortunately unable to play because the servers were down, but yay, Minion Monday! Come watch me make a fool of myself.
And you can watch that on the official DDO stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for all of our guests and current DDOcast contributors. Thanks to Turbine and Wizards. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, calendar, previous shows, swag, and other fun stuff. If you want to be part of the show or just say hi, you can email us at DDOcast.com. You can also find us on social media, particularly Twitter. That is by far the best one to do. And actually, since I forgot earlier, before we completely close out, and I'll just leave this as a splash screen for the end, they did release a picture on Twitter of Eldritch Blasts, a male with a blue one and a female with a green one, so you can enjoy that as well. I was going to do that during the warlock discussion. I forgot. But anyways, yeah. Our closing tip for the week comes from Ed on Galanda. Take your armor off before going for a swim. Very good advice. Swim has a double armor check penalty, so heavy armor will make you far less swimmy. So with that, until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to check out Warlock when it hits Lamania.
Bye, guys.